Hey guys, it is Mel here, and I am going to be talking to you tonight about hotel living and hitting your macros on the road, and just anything basically travel related. So I hope you're all having a beautiful Friday. I've got things organised, so if I look at my computer, it's just so that I don't miss anything. So. And at the end I will ask questions, so if you need to post questions then that would be great. So a little bit about myself. I'm Australian, obviously. I live in Canada, or between Canada and Mexico. So for the last 5 to 6 months I've been living in Playa del Carmen, which is pretty cool. Next month I am heading off to Las Palmas, actually, in the Canary Islands, and then going to be on to Budapest for a while, and also to Cyprus, and Serbia, I think, at some point also, so which is pretty cool. So I'm pretty excited about that. Being Australian, obviously, love the heat, so having the last 4 or so years in Canada, I think it was time that I got a tan and moved around, so that's what I'm doing. So I spend a lot of time in hotels and travelling, relocating myself to new countries, all that kind of stuff. So I obviously have the same challenges that you guys do in terms of having to find new foods, having to be organised, having to fly, all of those kind of things. So I wanted to share with you some of the stuff that I've picked up. No doubt your coaches have also given you all of this awesome information. So you probably know a lot of it, but maybe some of the stuff you don't. So you never know. So in terms of me as a coach, I've been coaching with WAG for 1.5 years, or around about that. So I also started as a client. Hayden was my coach back then. So and since then I have been doing what I love. So coaching is most definitely my passion. So I absolutely love helping people, and I'm so grateful to be working with you guys each day. So thank you. Training wise, so predominantly CrossFit, but I actually, since I've been in Mexico, I did a bulk, which was pretty cool, and some straight bodybuilding stuff. So lots of different things going on. Anyhow, okay, so some points, main points, which I'll probably touch back on also. So anytime I travel, or anytime we travel, I think it's really important that we're very clear about what our goal is. So is it and I guess this also comes back to, like, is this a work trip? Is this vacation? What am I actually going for? And then what do I want to achieve when I'm actually on vacation? Am I there to strictly, for work? Oh, sorry, on vacation. But if I'm going on vacation, do I want to relax? Am I looking to just maintain? Do I want to continue to see awesome progress? All of those kind of things. So I think when we are very clear about, just like goals, exactly what it is that we're wanting to achieve, then we can make sure that our level of expectation of progress matches the effort that we're putting in. So that's one thing. The other thing, keeping things simple. So I like to keep things as simple as possible. I travel pretty lightly as well. Being realistic in terms of our expectation of time, resources, and again, progress. And then one thing that I've learnt, and I'm sure you all have as well, is just that no matter how hard you plan, there's always going to be something that doesn't go to plan. So I think that's the one certainty that we know. So I think just accepting that no matter how good I organize myself, or I think I'm going to be somewhere on time, surely something will happen, and you've just got to do your best. Honestly, that's all you can do, is do your best. Things are going to happen, and we can't control those things, and it takes more energy being stressed about them than it does just sort of letting it go and being how it is. Always remember you're packing your scales. That's number one thing too. So I've had to buy a scale a few times because I've accidentally left home without it in a rush, so that is a good point. Excuse me. If you pack your travel scale, would be awesome. If you have one, if you don't, I actually often pack just my regular scale because I have not a lot of luggage that travels with me, so therefore I usually just have it in my carry-on. So you can do that. The other thing, if you don't mind doing that, obviously it might be a little bit different, but you can also just purchase one if you're going to be somewhere for a longer period of time. I've had to do that a few times as well. So again, like things aren't always going to go to plan, but there's always a way that we can make it work. Sometimes we just have to do a little bit of out of the box thinking. That was with my most favourite point. Never be afraid to ask. Like you'll be absolutely gobsmacked. Like people love helping. Absolutely love helping. So like if you ask, like never be afraid to ask. I think I just spent 10 days in the States, and the lady at the last hotel I was at had named me Egg Girl and sent me home with a brown paper bag of boiled eggs because every day I was asking for those. So, like people are just awesome and love to help. So never be afraid to ask. Okay, so now in terms of the travel day, so I guess this is one thing, and I know I get a lot of questions about this as well, just like planning for the actual travel day. So airports can't or aren't necessarily always like the funnest places to be. Traveling itself is actually like super stressful sometimes because we're running on tight time frames. We've got planes to get on, and consequences of not getting on those sometimes can be kind of large. So we're rushing around packing whatever else. So I like to always in my head sort of sit down and map out either on paper or just in my mind, know exactly how long my day is actually going to be, and then sort of like where am I going to be, how long is it going to take me to get from point A to point B, when will I get food, what access to food do I have, all that kind of stuff. So again, if I've got a 10-hour travel day, like I need to know that I've like eaten beforehand, and if I'm going through, depending on how many airports I'm going through, that kind of stuff, like what is going to be there. So mapping out and having a good timeline of like where am I, what am I doing, where am I going to be. Researching airports is super important. I know there is a blog that has a list of all the different airports and that kind of thing. So every airport is pretty standard, airports through the States anyhow that I've noticed, in terms of like you can always get boiled eggs, like turkey, jerky, like everything. So yogurt, like Greek yogurts, there's always a place that has salad and chicken, so Subway, so there's like lots of standard places. So if I research the airport and I have a look at like what are the most macro friendly like places for me to eat, or like basic, they have the little stores that have the like boiled eggs and that kind of thing in there. So that stuff's pretty standard. So I know I can get like bits and pieces that will be able to get me through. I know I can always get a salad, which is great. I know I'll always be able to get lean protein, which is excellent. Sorry, my computer's just doing its thing. So research, airport, know where I'm going, know what restaurants are there, know what's available. In terms of, depending how long your flight is, so I know when I flew from Australia to Canada, my flight was a little bit longer obviously, so contacting, I know a lot of the airline actually have this information like on their page because I've researched nearly all of them, but you can actually change your meals on the flight, which is kind of cool. So I think they have like low carb options, low sodium options, all those types of things. So I think perhaps maybe up to 24 hours beforehand you can do that. So I've done that a fair few times, and you get your meal first, which is cool too. So if you want to do that, that is one option. If you know you are going to actually be on the flight and be getting fed. So that's one thing to keep in mind. The other thing I like to do, so most airports, or every airport, has a lounge. So even if you're not a member of the lounge, one thing that I have worked out is quite often it's actually cheaper to pay like a day pass and way more comfortable if you can like pay for a day pass, go into the lounge, sit down, like compose yourself before you get on your flight. They always have like usually like deli meat and like salad, coffee, like those kind of things in there. The Wi-Fi is usually way better, water, that kind of stuff. So that's something that I do too. I'll typically, if I don't have like lounge access, so check your credit cards too to see if any of those have lounge access attached to them. So that's one way, because the food in there, like, it might just be basic, but you can construct like an awesome plate of like really lean, macro-friendly food, and it's nice to get away from the lousiness of airports as well. Something else that I do often, if I know I'm going to be out for a really long period of time with no access to food, or potential no access to food, because no one wants to see me hungry, is I'll eat a fair portion of my macros before I go, and that's mostly lots of protein, obviously, it's my favourite, and fibre. So stuff with fibre in it, so that I might feel pretty well satiated before I leave for the day, and that's just so, like, we all know that protein's the hardest to get on the go, so that way I sort of can think straight, fully stocked up and ready to get on the plane and whatnot, so that's really great. And then also just taking food with me, so it is, depending on where you're going, like, we can't always pack a whole lot of food. Like, I know when I come from Canada or the States back into Mexico, I can't bring things like salmon, and things like, there's certain things I can't bring back in anyhow. So, packing what I can. And that brings me back to one other thing also. So before I leave for like a period of time, so the trip I just came back from this week I was in the States for 10 days. So making sure that I'm sure you guys will do this, but just in case you don't, making sure that I use all the food in my cupboard, in my fridge, before I leave. So I might think about that a week or so before, so that I don't stock up on a bunch of food. Kind of lucky here in Mexico because there's not a lot of options for me, period. So that sort of saves money too, because I'm sure that we've all been in the situation where we're running out the door and there's a ton of food in the fridge and then it's just going to go to waste. So the money that we save there, we can obviously spend more on vacation, which is awesome, or buying new shoes, or whatever you need it for. More food, because we all eat so much food. So that's one thing. So being smart about that. Also on that, I feel like it's a great way to embrace your creativity, because when you've got little weird bits and pieces back in the cupboard, it sort of forces you to make all of these awesome creations of I don't know, macro awesomeness. I don't know, some of the greatest inventions or plates of food that I have eaten have just been basically throwing lots of different stuff together in an effort to try and use everything before we leave. So that's one thing that I do. Okay, so another thing, this is not food related, but in terms of training. Okay, so most hotels will in fact have a hotel gym, especially if you're always staying at a chain of hotels or whatever. And if they don't, always ask, because most of the time they actually have a day pass to a gym that is close. So one of the hotels I just stayed in, that was the case. So we got to go to another gym just down the street or whatever, which was awesome. Obviously it was not a CrossFit or a weightlifting gym, but it was just a general gym, but still I was able to do everything that I needed to. So that was really cool, and it's just a nice experience doing something different. So making sure that I know what facilities are available to me. So if there is a hotel gym, I usually do my due diligence. I'll either shoot them an email, see how basic it is, or just look online, because usually they have photos. But typically they're always going to have dumbbells, an elliptical, which is awesome, a treadmill, and then one machine that has all the bits and pieces on it. And I actually don't know the name for that, so I'm sorry. But what I did find on my last trip was that pretty much every single hotel gym that I went to, that was from the same chain, had all of the same things. So you can pretty much rest assured you're going to be able to get all of your stuff done. It's just going to be a little bit different to what it might look like if you're at home. But again, that's the awesomeness of doing different things and just having fun with it. So I think the other thing with training, if there is no gym, if you plan on doing hotel workouts, then having a list of those already mapped out for you before you go. So I know there's a stack of stuff online that you can Google, hotel WODs and whatever else. so just body weight stuff is great. Some of the places have pools. The last hotel I stayed at had a pool, which was really awesome. So getting in some different kind of cardio and just moving. What else? Obviously, if we're going to visit CrossFits while we're there, which again is also very cool because it's really nice going into new gyms, meeting new people and doing that kind of thing. So like before I go, I try and always be very clear about everything. So like if I know where the gyms are, that kind of thing, like it's so much more efficient and like reduces so much anxiety and stress if we're like super clear about where we're going, where everything is, how am I going to get there, what is the schedule like, that kind of thing. But also just in terms of training, I think like being realistic about your time. So if we're on vacation or if we are like on a business trip or whatever, I think it's really important to like be real about like how much time do I actually have, because it might, like I might want to go and train every single day or whatever, but if I'm like super realistic about it and I'm like going from this place to that place and doing all of these things, I might not actually have as much time, and I don't want to be upset or disappointed or whatever that I didn't get to do all of those things if I have unable to. So just being very clear and realistic again. It's great if I can make it to training, and I'll definitely make an effort to do that, but again, not everything always is going to go to plan, so we have to be okay with maybe I'll be doing push-ups beside my bed in the hotel room, something like that. So that's training. Also with training, like making sure like if you are going to train, again, coming back to food and things like that, like our foods, like I still need to be making an effort to like eat my pre and post workout meals or what have you whilst I'm going on the go, so making sure that I have that stuff organised is super important. And yeah, one other thing, if I don't have travel awards, then Google stuff on YouTube. That's my new latest thing. Finding workout videos online is super cool and super awesome. And if you guys haven't done that, like look at some of the old school Jane Fonda stuff that is there. It is awesome and hard, super hard. I remember doing that stuff with my mum when I was a kid. So there's like tons of different ways, even things like just to get yourself moving, if you're not going to be able to get into the gym, organize things that allow you or sort of force you to move. So like go on walking tours. I've done plenty of those while I've been overseas. They are awesome too. Usually they're super cheap, but they're very cool. You meet a ton of great people, but it gets you out walking every single day, which is great. So yeah, there's countless different, always take the stairs, that kind of stuff, but just, really think about like how can I like maximize my walking. So in terms of like more prep, so checking with the hotel or Airbnb. Airbnb people are really awesome, I've found, and generally really want to help you as well. So checking facilities. So I want to know obviously if it has a gym, which is great, but also like is there a restaurant there? Is there do they have a little convenience store attached to it? What is in my hotel room is super important too. And things that I have, so like the microwave, the mini fridge is awesome. Sometimes you can ask if they have rooms with a scale too. And if you get there and they don't have that stuff, just ask. Like honestly, they'll either move you to another room or try and help you however they can. So if that's like asking for an upgrade, sometimes they'll put you in a suite, which is pretty cool. Because most of the time those have like full cooking facilities. So again, if you are going to be away for quite a while, then like if I can cook my own food, that is like next level and awesome. So finding hotels that have like kitchenettes or rooms that have kitchenettes, or even just, again, as I said, when you get there, if like hotels want to help people. So asking for an upgrade, again, like most of the time if they have space, they might actually do that or put you in a room that has like those kind of facilities. So the power of asking. So just ask. because again, like being able to cook your own food is so, obviously we're going to more than likely be eating out if we're on vacation and enjoying meals with our friends or what have you, but if I can control some of my meals, then that's really helpful and makes me feel a lot better. So in terms of, I guess, like if there's breakfast available at the hotel, breakfast is my favourite, and breakfast buffet is also my favourite. So some things that I just did on the last trip that I just went on, which was super helpful, was I always take food with me to the buffet. And again, so things that I noticed on the last trip. Most of the same hotels, or most of all of the hotels that I stayed in, even if they weren't from the same chain, had the same brands of foods. So they always had like Kraft Philly cheese and the little things, boiled eggs, which is excellent, bread, jams, sugar-free syrup, the little omelette things, which the macros for those I have. So if anyone needs those, the typical little omelette thing that they have. Standard things, waffles, all that kind of stuff. If we know that at every breakfast buffet it's pretty much going to be the same thing, then I'm able to kind of like construct a plan about what I'm going to need to fill in the gaps. So for me, I was taking packets of salmon and then like low carb wraps. Because I absolutely love them, and here in Mexico I can't get them. So when I come to the States, it's like glorious. There's all this food that I don't have access to here. So so taking that stuff, so that way I'm still eating. So for instance, I ate the boiled eggs every morning. I just took the egg yolks out of them. I took my own wraps. I took my scale. So I can still eat, they had Greek yogurt every morning, which was awesome. They have fruits, which are great. They didn't have almond milk, which is a shame, but they had, everything else. So I was still able to construct like the same breakfast that I would essentially have at home, but just using items that were from, obviously from my bag, but also from the buffet. And then other things, they have, like I said, they have fruits, but they also have like peanut butter and things like that. So I took some of those with me. I don't eat peanut butter personally, but my boyfriend does. So I ended up just collecting this bag of like little things that we could like take and use throughout the day, which was great. So later on when I found a Walmart and I found Arctic Zero, because I do not have access to that here, or Halo Top, everybody. So that was one of the first things I did when I got there. So of course I created this little masterpiece using all the bits and pieces that I'd gotten from the buffet. But also just knowing that I have like food in my bag is super helpful and key. I'm not fussy. So if I, am able to just like construct something whilst I'm on the go, then so be it. So other things which are really great. So if you are staying in like an Airbnb, even if you're staying in a hotel, because we do this also, having things delivered to the hotel before you get there or when you are there. And even, I do this here in Mexico because sometimes, like I'm not joking, sometimes it takes me an hour to get groceries. So I have them delivered. So you can have Amazon Pantry, I believe it is, and also like there's Postmates in the States, and you guys probably know more than me. There's a bunch of other delivery services that you can use that will deliver food to the hotel or to your like house that you're staying in or whatever else. So that's pretty cool because that saves you a trip. Like when we're tired and we've been traveling, the last thing you want to do, the last thing I want to do, I know, is negotiate like where I'm going to get food from at 1 a.m. in the morning. So if I can turn up to my hotel and there's already like delicious food waiting for me there, then that is awesome because I know I can wake up and there's going to be a fridge full of food and it's one less thing that I have to do and more time to be spending with the people that I'm either visiting or off doing something else like exploring or whatever else. So just one thing I do before I forget, egg whites in your mini fridge. So for protein. So if there is a mini fridge, like I will always have a carton of egg whites in there because they are my favourite. So, and you can always make an egg white and wrap sandwich. whilst you're in your hotel. And also brings me back to just like if you are at buffet and you are making stuff obviously for breakfast, like sometimes I'll make additional food and just take it with me. So I might make like an extra like boiled egg and like salmon wrap or whatever, and then like wrap it up and take it in my bag. So if you don't mind eating that stuff kind of semi-warm, you know, it's, trust me, when you're hungry, or if you're like me and you're hungry, you'll eat it. It'll be more than okay. So other things, so taking as many things from home as well, and this goes back to, I guess, where I was talking about trying to make an effort to have eaten all of the food in my cupboard and my fridge. So there's not always going to be your favourite staples wherever you're going, which is a good thing and a bad thing, because obviously we want to get out and try new foods, because that's the whole purpose. Or in some cases, you know, when we're travelling, we want to experience new things and whatever else. But there's some basic staples, you know, like PB2, that are easily transportable in your bag, which are really helpful to have, which you might not be able to get in some places. So, and again, that's going to bring down the cost of like when you're travelling. You know, you're not having to buy every single meal if you just need something small to tide you over. So take as much as you can from home. That's one thing. Researching, so restaurants that you would like to eat at, obviously, but also grocery stores. So other things I like to do is find the buffets. Now buffets are awesome because everything is usually already pre-portioned and cut up for you, so you can easily like weigh them, take the food that's like fresh to cook, all that kind of stuff. So also I think it's a great place if you're with other people who maybe don't track, you know, then there's something for everybody. And I just find that, yeah, they're a really great place. They're also usually, like, depending on where you go or the type of buffet that you're looking for, they can be pretty cheap. Some of them are pretty expensive. I know Coach Ashley and I went to one here in Mexico that was a little bit more expensive, but it was beautiful. In terms of meat, that just had a lot of meat, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, there's something that I would look for, and also just like what local cuisines, and like farmers markets and things like that. So, you know, not necessarily eating street food, but, you know, there might be, like, if you ask locals or, you know, jump on some forums and that kind of thing, you'll be able to find like what is, you know, most readily available in the place that you're visiting. You know, so you're basically getting to taste the good stuff. If you don't have a cooler for your car, then you can always buy one when if you're not going to take one with you, like a little fold-up one. Buy one when you get there if you don't mind doing that, or having it delivered via Amazon so that it is there when you get there. So I know, like Ashley and I just recently, the last trip that I had, I think when I was in Vegas with her, we did a little road trip. Excuse me. She was actually driving me to the airport. That was the road trip. However, you know, we had the car packed and we had the cooler, and I think we actually created this little salad bar out of the back of the car in the car park, which was pretty cool. You know, and made our salads and whatever else. So, like, if you have a cooler, again, like, you can put all your food in there, and so that's super, super helpful. Water bottle. Hydration is key when you're traveling. So I don't have it with me or inside, but my WAG water bottle. So I always take an empty water bottle with me when I travel so that I can fill it up when I've gone through security and customs or whatever else. So like hydrating, like I can't say it enough. Like when you fly, you get so dehydrated. So like electrolytes, that kind of thing. The ladies in the plane will always fill your water bottle up if you ask them, so that you're not always getting this tiny little cup, and if you're like me, being the annoying person hitting the button, being like, can I please have more? So if you just ask them to fill it up once, they're pretty cool with that. So making sure you always have water, because, you know, we know sometimes that we might think we're hungry, but we're actually just really need to drink. And also just like your skin and your hair and nails and everything get really dry when you're traveling. So making sure that you've always got water. Like I never leave home without my water bottle, so make sure that is stapled to you or in your handbag. Other things. Okay, so supermarkets, as I said. So if you can locate your supermarkets, so whether it just be like general grocery stores or whatever, you can pretty much always like construct any meal just from simply going to the grocery store. So, you know, as I said about, you know, I'm not really fussy when I travel, so, you know, often if I don't have a lot of utensils or like plates or whatever else, you know, like I have opened up a bag of lettuce and got deli meat and sort of like constructed it in there, and then got some plastic forks and whatever else, and made myself a salad. So nearly all convenience stores will sell, like I think here in Mexico they sell FUD. I don't know if they sell that anywhere else. So that's just deli meat. Obviously it's like not something that I eat every single day, but it's available. And as I said, there's always like a Subway or whatever else where you can get chicken and salad. So if you're not fussy and you're able to just like pick up bits and pieces and like put it together, it might not be the standard meal that you would eat, you know, when you're at home or what have you, but it'll do the trick and you'll be happy, which is great. Tracking in terms of, so sometimes when we're in places, I know here in Mexico I have the Wi-Fi here can be very temperamental, and then even when we were in Costa Rica, you know, it was even worse there. So some places are not going to have great Wi-Fi, and sometimes we don't want to be on our phone all the time either. So, you know, thinking about how I'm going to utilize MyFitnessPal whilst I am away. So, I mean, if we have used recent entries before, then they're going to still be in my phone or in the app, and then I can use them offline. So that's one thing. So if there are foods that you haven't eaten but you foresee that you will eat because it is like a local food or what have you and you're really excited to try it, then I would actually put like a placebo entry in whilst you're in Wi-Fi so that it's already available, and that way you can just refer and obviously use it when it's offline, and then keep track, you know, with the other stuff on paper or what have you. So that's one thing that I definitely do. Other things like taking photos of my food. If I'm not able to like enter it immediately, I'll take a picture, not only because my food is amazing and looks delicious and I want to have a memory of that, but also just so that I can like remember exactly what was on my plate, and then I'm able to enter it offline when I'm back online, I should say. So also in terms of like the weighing and measuring when I'm like out and about. So other things that I do, if I don't have access to my scale for whatever reason, like it typically lives in my backpack, but if I don't have access and I am at the grocery store, I'll order things separately or pay for things separately, what have you, so that I can use the weight of the receipt. So, you know, I might order 150 grams worth of turkey. And then, you know, the weight like one tomato and things like that. You know, and if I eat an apple, then I'll take the core home and weigh and that kind of thing. So just little hacks like that. You know, buying stuff, obviously we could buy stuff that's already like pre-weighed, but that's just one other thing that I do. The other thing is most restaurants already weigh their meat. So I know Ashley and I found a great little cafe in Costa Rica where they actually weighed all our food for us, which was awesome. But I know there's a place here that I eat seafood at every Friday, and they weigh all of their shrimp. So, you know, excellent. So again, it just comes back to asking. So more often than not, they are weighing it. So don't be afraid to just ask, like, you know, do you know how many grams this shrimp is, or do you know how many grams this piece of steak is, or what have you, because most of the time it's already being weighed. So that's one thing that I have learnt, and that's really most of the things that I wanted to talk about today. I guess other things also, I think we had a question on sodium. So just making sure, you know, when we're traveling, more often than not, the foods that we're going to be consuming, if we're eating out more, are going to actually be a little bit higher in salt. Also, you might find you just feel a little bit bloated because there are foods that are different to what you would be eating normally. And again, anytime we fly, Well, I know anytime I fly, definitely it leaves me feeling a little bit like bloated and just not feeling great. So, I try to keep the foods that I eat whilst I'm away like consistent with the ones that I eat when I'm at home, and then just making sure I'm drinking plenty of water. There is going to be salt and trace fats and whatever and stuff when you're eating out. Anything that's not controlled in your kitchen, obviously. But all you can do is your best again. So that's all I have. So if there's any questions, I think there were some questions earlier, so I'm just going to have a look here. Okay. Oh, flying Katie's question on flying bloat. So again, I think maybe like in terms of the flying bloat, the plain food, sometimes like that can be a cause of it. Just making sure you're drinking plenty of water. The other things that I find, because if we're going through different time zones too, so your digestion can be off in terms, from sleeping, stress, like all of those kind of things. You just have to honestly just like drink as much water and like keep your electrolytes up. So I tend to drink lots of Powerade while on the plane and just stick with fresh foods, and avoid anything that's too processed or something like that. Like I wouldn't typically eat. So just try to like do everything I can to make myself feel great or as normal as I could whilst I was at home. Okay, yeah, and then Gabriella had a question there on oatmeal, eggs, that kind of thing. So I think I did touch on that. So definitely boiled eggs are amazing. So again, you can just I take the yolks out with a spoon. So you too, if you're like me and you eat lots of lots of eggs, I think I was eating 8 at a time or something and taking the yolks out. So you can make a bit of a mess. So I'll just pre-warn you that the poor people that are, having to clean that up. So do your best to put a napkin down. So those are awesome. Obviously oatmeal's great. If that's something that you already have, they always have that stuff there. And then just bring in your own whatever you can. I think they're always going to have bacon and things like that. Some of them will have Canadian bacon, which is great because it's a lot leaner. But yeah, so in terms of breakfast, they have fruit, that kind of thing. What else have we got? And I think that's it. Was there anyone, if anyone has any other questions, by all means, please write in the comments. But other than that, that's all I have for you tonight. And thank you so much for tuning in. It was lovely to talk to you all and have an excellent weekend.